Are we sorted on my camera? Everything. Oh, okay. Phones on silent, please. I think I heard someone's phone. All phones on silent, because our phones are off.
I don't have a SIM card.
Get up. Yeah, we can go. As we celebrate International Women's Day, Envision brand, in partnership with the Gauteng Department of Sports, Arts, Culture and Recreation, bring you the Women Can Dialogue, which aims to recognize the importance of equal opportunities for girls and women, empower young women and girls, inspire as well as encourage. And as Zozibini Tunzi said, Miss Universe 2019 women should take up space in different industries. Hello and welcome to our broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us on our multiple channels on YouTube as well as Facebook. I'm Lindy Wedube. It's an absolute pleasure to have you join us for this exciting discussion. I'm not alone. I've got a fine panel in studio with me. I am joined by former Banyana Captain Portia Modise, former Olympian and Paralympian gold medalist Natalie Dutoit, the founder of Gauteng, founder and Gauteng Sports Confederation, second vice president rather, Munira Ramutula, and the University of Pretoria's Women Football Media Officer, Pearl Musuwane. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us. What an absolute pleasure and honor to have you in studio. Pearl, let me start with you. We are all in different fields in sports. We are women in sports with different experiences. Just talk us through what your journey has been like as a young black woman in sport.
I think mine is going to be slightly different from many because I've been in the very, very fortunate position that I have had a very good support system from the very beginning of my journey. And in as much as, you know, it's all about women, that support has come from the male, you know, counterparts and leaders within the field. When I started was with Ndate Chakatswana. Those who've been in football for a long time will understand the likes of Dr. Ndani Mlauzi and now Mr. Kenneth Neriwala. You know, when I started, in the late Silomukwana, of course, when I started, they're the ones who really had a big influence in my journey. And again, I can say that I've been even more fortunate to have received even more support from the women around me. I mean, one of them sitting right here, Munira, you know, your Tandimi Rafe of Orlando Pirates, you know, your Jessica Mudaungs of Kaizer Chiefs, your Nomsama Shangus, you know, even the women around me have given me tremendous support. So I can say that I've been in that fortunate position that I've had a good support system, and that has allowed me to grow as an individual quite holistically and not face as many challenges as I would have had I not had that necessary support. And yeah. I say I'm fortunate because I recognize that there are those who don't have that kind of support system and they do face quite a lot of challenges.
Yeah. Natalie, a very good morning and thank you so much for joining us. You are one of South Africa's most celebrated athletes. Just tell us about your experience.
You know, I think growing up, I had a sport that wasn't a team sport per se. So ours was about a clock, about, you know, getting that time that one needed to get. And I think it is, you know, as Paul said, it's very fortunate to have leadership and opportunities. And, you know, a lot of the time it's not always people that can create those opportunities for you, but it's about you that also creates those opportunities, yes. You know. And growing up, all I knew was that I needed to be the best by far to be able to get anywhere. You know, growing up where your parents can't really afford to send you anywhere, and you know they try and make an opportunity to get the money in order to get you to travel, experience, and be the best that you can be. And I think that's what's been really special growing up is that, you know, the mentality of be the best that you can be. And, you know, there is a way, there is a means. We've got to go and find it. We will try and make a plan, but it's to keep fighting for it. And I think that was where, you know, growing up, I was really, really special for me. And, you know, yes, along the way you get challenges. I think for me it's also the disability challenges rather than just the women challenges. But yes, you know, I think the older one gets, the sort of different positions that one takes rather than just your sporting careers where a lot more of the challenges crop in and come in. And, you know, it's to take what you've learned within your sport and use the same lessons that you learned to grow through it and to go through it.
Yeah. All right, she needs no introduction. Portia Modise, one of South Africa's football darlings. I think you and I have similar backgrounds. I also come from a disadvantaged background.
Yeah.
Growing up from Ekasi, you know, growing up, you lived in a shack. Did you ever think that you could represent your country on the biggest stage?
To tell you the truth, I was. I was waiting for it. I was a special one. Let me tell you, I was a special one in different ways. You know, I was a special one in different ways. I was a special one because I had a talent as a young girl that I didn't understand. Because even when I was a girl and not understanding why I've been given a talent that is played by boys. And at the same time, I was a special one because I'm a woman and acting different, you know, and I like boys stuff than girl stuff. And I couldn't understand myself. But I was lucky enough to have a family that they didn't restrict me and say, "Intombazana mele yesontweni, intombazana mele shade, intombazana mele nje." My mom he really did give herself a time and a chance to say, let me see her, what further step is going to take about her life and about football. And my mom was disabled, and I was raised by a single mother and is so disabled, and they were living in the shack, and my mom used to sell alcohol, you know, to make sure we're getting that money to go to school. And the sad part I needed to let go of my schooling, because when I look at my mom, you know, hustling like this, and I felt like playing this sport, and I feel good I was good at it. I felt good to Mamela. There is no way these girls, they could, you know, pass me. Like, Mamela, these girls, they will follow me. Because I was given, like, this thing. I didn't go to learn it. I wake up playing this thing. So now, when I was entering in the Banyana, for me, it was never even about playing football and enjoying football. It was about work. I need to go home and support the system. I need to go home and support my nephews. I need to go home and make the life easier for my mom. But, you know, when you're young, you're seeing these things on TV, you see soccer players, you're thinking, okay, life is going to be better. Because now I'm doing it good like these guys. But later, you get to understand life is not going to be better for you. Because when you are a woman, and women, they look women differently. Even you could have a talent, but your talent will never beat men. Men, they'll always take a stand. And I realized that even after I needed to accept that, it hit so hard. Because I know the sacrifices that I did in my life. I didn't have a childhood. For me to have a childhood, I knew I'm not going to change my situation home. I needed to limit myself in a lot of things. But the wildest people, they were thinking, I'm not disciplined. They were lying. I had a lot to lose than me being out there and trying to feed like other kids. My mom couldn't even buy me shoes. It was my first time buying myself shoes when I started to get paid. That 50 rand in Banyana. So now when I'm sitting like this, I'm like, okay, we need to do something, because we don't want to see such young girls, you know, growing up, you know, like me, facing
going through what you went through.
What I went through, and at the same time, in our sports, they're still going to find a same situation. It's not going to help them to be better. Instead, you know what it's going to do? It's going to play with them here. And when you try to share these problems with people, people start to judge you. People start not to put themselves in your shoes. People think they know what you went through. And what is said is you're expecting these women to listen to you. But these women, you know what they do? They'll crush you. They'll crush you as in like you're talking something that they don't know. Deep down here, they know what you're telling the truth. Later, they come back, they want you to fight the same struggle that you were. Now you've been wanting to fight for so long. But Bona, they pretended as in like there's no such thing. So I'm sitting here every day when I speak. I don't speak just because I want attention. I speak from the heart because I still go through that. And I'm watching these young girls thinking one day, Bona, they will make it. I'm like, hey, son, it's going to take time. So that is why I'll push Gucci. These girls, they need to go to school. That is why I'll say we need to take sports back to schools. That's where we can channel it and save these girls to make sure Gucci, we combine the career with the school.
Academics, yeah.
So if they think Bona, they will be a different anytime soon. Mina, can I be honest? If you are a mother out there, listening to me. Make sure that your kids go to school, because it's sad where I'm sitting. But let me tell you, because I'm a strong woman, I was raised very differently. That is why I could still stand up and look so nice.
Hello.
Sure, yo, she said a mouthful, hasn't she? Now, one woman who's an advocate for women in sports in different fields, she's involved in different projects, is Munira Ramatula. What are you busy with right now? Because I know I follow you on Instagram, and I saw you yesterday, you were busy, and we're here today, I know you're busy. If there's one woman who works hard, it's you.
Wow, thank you. Look, right now I think there's quite a bit on the ground.
Yeah.
Yesterday we officially opened the Gauteng Women's Rugby Institute, which is a first for Africa, a high-performance development program for women in rugby. And also working on the Gauteng Women in Sports Awards, which we'll be launching tomorrow. So there's a lot happening. I think, I came into sport as a soccer mom, and I somehow got entangled, and maybe I found my purpose within as to this is what drives me and this is what keeps me moving. And from being a soccer mom, I somehow moved across to being an advocate for women's sport. And that was brought to me through young girls and parents coming to me where they wanted their young girls to play soccer and they didn't have avenues for that, and I thought I'd try and create some sort of avenue. But as time went by, I realized that whatever problems exist, whether it's football, whether it's rugby, whether it's netball, for women's sports, the problems are very similar across, and they require different solutions. But at times, it's easier to work in your little corner and make that difference in your little corner, because if we all do that and work in our little corners to do what we need to do, when we come together, then there's something great that we've achieved. As they always say, you don't bite the whole apple at the same time. You chew it bit by bit. And that's just me trying to do that.
Yeah, sure. Pearl, Uposha earlier just mentioned the different challenges that she faces. I think as women in sports, there's so many challenges that we all go through, whether it's equal opportunities, being constantly under scrutiny and having to constantly prove yourself. Yep. What challenges have you faced?
The slow pace of that change, because I think everything else stems from that, because the system takes so long to go through the steps. The system has to go through those steps,
yes,
in order to move forward and move forward in the right direction. But the slow pace at which it happens then leads to frustration,
yes,
and then finding ourselves, going in our different, corners, and people just wanting to be out of the sports and the like. So for me, you have a lot of people that start out very passionate and they want to do this and they want to do that, but because the system moves so slowly, they don't feel that they have the necessary support to be able to do what they want to do. Even though it's going to be, a valuable contribution, it's going to make a huge difference, but because they feel that they don't have that support, then they pull away. And that then slows the system down even more. So it's that slow pace just is having a ripple effect that is going to be, it's going to take a lot to fix. It's going to take a lot to fix that damage. And it just slows down the sport and the growth even further.
Natalie, would you say that mentally as an athlete that affects you? Because now you have to focus on your performance, but you know what's happening behind the scenes.
I think as an athlete, one learns lots of lessons within your sport, and not purely from people around you only, but actually in the pool, for example, with me, in the pool, being able to train 8 hours a day. The lessons that one learns is, I have to do this to be able to achieve something. You've got the people around you that support you and share, keep going. They keep you going as well. So I think that the support around it is really important. But when one leaves the sport, for example, you still have those lessons that you've learned.
Yes.
And you can't just throw them away. You can't just forget them. And often you see the slow pace that's happening. And as an athlete, you think, but I had to get in the pool and I had to train 8 hours to achieve this. Why can't it go that quickly? Why does a voice, an athlete's voice, not make a difference? you know, when as Munira said, you know, the challenges that many sports go through are very, very similar. You know, that's the dialogue, as we're all going through similar, from health to, you know, to training, to wellness, to finances, to most of the challenges. And for women specifically, you know, it's iron levels. It's, you know, one goes through puberty, one goes through, you know, many things, and yes, it messes with your mind. You know, yes, we have parents as well that can't afford it. Yes. There's those that possibly just don't have that they don't have that opportunity. You know, mentally you're left out, and eventually you put in a team, and now you're expected to perform. Yes. And you now just have to show up on the day. You know, growing up, we didn't have all the psychologists and you know, the doctors and the health and the everything else that has, you know, slowly but surely is coming into the sport now. But at the end of the day, we fought for what we wanted to achieve. And I think that's also where we become a lot more despondent as we get older and as we go through the ranks and as we want to give back and as we become passionate, you get extremely despondent and eventually you want to withdraw. And we see a lot of, you know, past sports people that actually withdraw eventually or don't even take the challenge on and share those lessons that they've already learned within their sport. So yes, I think, you know, on a broader level, we're speaking women, but we're also speaking in terms of, you know, do things need to be legislated? Do things, you know, in order for the women's voice to come through? You know, is it just a given? So I think there's a massive broad topic in terms of women and specifically challenges that one faces. Yeah.
And how would you describe the current sporting environment that we're in now? Would you say we aren't where we were a few years ago? Are things getting better? Or as Paul said earlier, the system is moving quite slow?
The system is moving extremely slowly, but, you know, for a sport, for example, swimming, we didn't have female swimmers for a number of years, and we're now seeing some of the swimmers coming through the ranks, the female swimmers, you know, Olympic hopefuls. But again, it was a dialogue, it was a conversation that there were no females coming through. And then it has to go back down to the grassroots. Let's go and find those women. Let's try and bring them through the ranks. How do we keep women within the sporting fraternity as well? You know, you have your health issues, you have your mental issues, you have all those. We have family issues. How do we get through all of those? You know, some can't even afford to go to school. How do we get them scholarships? How do we get them? And now we throw in COVID as well. So ultimately, we land up in a situation where everybody's trying to fend and trying to fight just to be something and to be someone. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's extremely challenging in many facets.
Yeah. Portia, Unatali mentioned puberty. It's match day, it's that time of the month. You know, you're dealing with so many emotions, you know, your hormones. Up match day, how do you deal with that?
You know, I was just going to say in more because you don't even have money to afford anything. Like Natal said, when they introduce a psychologist, you start to have that freedom to say, let me go to our psychologist and tell Sisnoms my problems, because now I can't really reveal all my problems to other players because it will take my confidence away. Sometimes it's not even about you getting pads, or it's about also underwear, because you get these small kids, underwear, they don't even know the sport bra that is okay to playing also. You know, at the same time they need to share this thing. The sport bra share, right? Because it's an underwear thing, you know, and it's sad, but we're still facing those things, and those are the things that I think people, they need to know. Good women are sensitive than men. You know, there are things men they could share is candy, it's okay. But women, we can't share these things because we have period pain. There are people who've got something else that's you know. And but then sometimes you ask yourself, Guti, when we run by when men dominate in our space, where you get a chance really to vent out. When women, they are not dominating in our space. If men are dominating in our space, we don't get a chance to vent out because the coaches, they don't understand that. In my times when I was playing with men, they were dominating. And we couldn't share those things unless you have your teammates that you will tell, older than you, because I was the youngest one, older than you, we used to say that. Then that they managed, that they could hustle coming to the camp, because that time we're not getting paid. They will try to share what they have with you. But today, when you see I'm under 17 age, they're still going through what we were going through.
Yeah.
They don't have those things, and they're playing Ikosaf. You know, I'm starting to think, when the manager is moving around, starting to think, how I'm gonna help my kids. Ukuthi babe nama pets, ngoba it's that time I'm a player mangeke adlale kahle. Then you're starting to think, like how basuka kanjani ekhaya to come here, you know, as young they are, kungena petty cash to take care of them. So it just shows, Gucci, even sometimes we can have women in our space, you know, thinking that when we see them, you know, our life is going to be easy because there are women around us. Let me tell you, sometimes your life, it gets difficult. Because even those women, they are there for their own thing. It's like not a security. I'm a security, report. It's not like they care really about us. Gutumund is trying to understand what is it that I'm dealing with. Yes, you expect to push and get a ground in, I perform. But do you know really what I'm dealing with? I even said I'm a top goal scorer in Africa. I'll tell you, no one was within Khalapi. Kubo bonka banting figile gubin is a fault. Look, no one was within Khalagupi. To show you good, no one cares. You only good when you still can perform. After that, hey. So when the next so I'm having an eye and you know, when I started to think how I can help these girls without anyone else interfering so I can do my thing, I started to think, let me have a foundation. You know, a foundation that it could be a voice, you know, of women's football. It could be a home of women's football. When these girls stop playing, I don't want them to find themselves like me, sitting, not understanding 2 years what you want to do. They must come to me in my foundation, come and ask for help. Posh, coaching. Can you find endorsement for me to go and do more coaching courses? I'll be there. I want them to come to me and ask for help. There are small players now, small girls who are playing in the township. We're going to put them in my foundation. We're going to make a small academy because we want to start to take players overseas when they are still young.
Yes, yeah.
Because till now we wait and wait. And we open those channels to go overseas. Now we're seeing a lot of players going overseas is nice. But how many of them that they are remaining home? It's many of them. In order for you to be recognized in this in women's football, you need to play for Banyana Banyan. How many of them that they're not going to play for Banyana Banyan and they are good? So we want to open that opportunity to say, women's football is not Banyana Banyan. I always tell people, hey, Posh, we don't see you playing anymore. We don't see it. Women's football. Why you guys think a PSL could sponsor, could supply Bafana with the players?
Yes.
It's a very same thing with us. We have teams that are supplying Banyana. And those teams, they are not well taken care of. We need to start to take care of those teams so we can have a better national team, a better Banyana. So our national team could really change the situation about women's football.
Yeah. Sis Monira, Uposha mentions things that I feel like are basic essentials. You know, I mean, if we have young girls playing Ikasi and they don't have like basic sporting equipment, who then needs to bring in the change? Because I know with rugby, they have so many tournaments. They have Wilder Clubber, they have Craven Week, you know, you have varsity rugby. But with netball and other, you know, sporting codes for women, it's quite different.
Look, I think federations need to play a bigger role in ensuring they shouldn't just look at athletes when they're established because they come from somewhere. There's got to be a better concentration at grassroots level. There's got to be a better concentration on tracking athletes at grassroots level, which is not happening currently with a lot of federations. It's really not happening. But I think your basic necessities and basic needs. I always say women's sport is different from men's sport, not in a sense that they cannot perform, but in a sense that women have different needs. And those needs need to always be taken into consideration. When you go into certain sporting facilities and there's no change room for women, where are they supposed to change? Are they supposed to change outside? I mean, these are facilities that are also being used by young girls for training. There's no lights at the facility. They need to train in the dark, or they need to go home in the dark. It's not safe for them at the end of the day. So federations need to definitely take a better look and a deeper look into how do they then get grassroots level up and running in a way that it takes care of the girl child more than anything else.
Yeah.
Because I'm not saying there are no problems with boys in sport. There are problems with boys in sport. But right now, I think the critical and the priority should be the girls' sport. Facilities is important.
Yes.
Make sure that girls have change rooms. Make sure that girls can feel safe wherever they are. That old man or whoever it is that you have looking after that facility, has he been vetted? Do you know whether he's a serial killer or a perv or whatever he is? Has he been vetted? We should not just be allowing every Tom, Dick and Harry to coach children, you know, or to be around children, because that's where it all starts. That's where the abuse starts. We need to look at how do we better ensure that federations have better safeguarding policies. Yes, we are working on safeguarding policies from the Confederation aspect, and I know SASCOC has also just recently established a safeguarding committee at looking at how do we then protect not just children, but, you know, women, even men, and coaches as well, because some of them do get accused wrongly. You know, how do you protect the victim and the perpetrator, and how do you make sure that you get results out of it? But until such time that all those policies are in place, it's not going to work. But we can't say it's not going to work. We need to work towards it, and we need to put them in place and make sure that federations are held accountable for that. You know, young girls should not be sitting out there without basic needs, because sanitary towels are basic needs. She didn't ask to have it there. You know, it's there. It's part of her. It's part of her body. So how do we make sure that that is taken care of? Because we know the communities that we work in, we know the communities that we get the best talent out of are our very, very poor communities. That's the reality of the situation. You know, you sit there and you look at regional level, I'm looking from a football perspective, you get emails or you get told that, you know, send us a list of how many girls teams you have and stuff like that. But what support are you giving to those girls teams? Or what support are you giving to those girl structures? Because if there was enough support, my organization itself would not be sitting with a load of requests for basic equipment, you know, for sanitary towels, for those, and other foundations as well. They sit with those requests. But how do we then work together with all these organizations to make sure that we get that going and we ensure that girls are taken care of? You know, there really is so much more, but, you know, facilities, but also for disability athletes. You know, you go into facilities and there's no disability facilities. They can't even go to the toilet because there's no toilet.
There's no ramp.
That's a basic need, you know? That's literally a basic need for them. So a lot more still needs to be done. I'm not saying we haven't made strides. We have made strides, but there's definitely a lot more that still needs to be done. And there needs to be a very concerted effort when it comes to the girl child from a federation perspective, instead of just looking for numbers so that they can put in reports and go out there and say, we have so many girls participating in a particular sport. Half the time, they don't even know who those girls are. They're just getting numbers from people because they need to put those reports together. How many of them actually spend time at the grassroots level to understand what is going on, to understand what the real needs are at grassroots level?
Pusha, another thing we can't ignore, obviously, the finances. We were all affected by COVID-19. We don't know whether some of the male athletes during COVID, during lockdown, were getting their full incomes. You know, you mentioned that at some points at Banyana, you weren't obviously earning a decent income. So I can't imagine what our athletes went through during lockdown. Were they even getting an income?
You know, let me tell you, we tried to help with my foundation in terms of thinking, there are women soccer players who are coming from different provinces and who are playing for these teams that are supporting the National League. And their coaches, they're taking money out of their pockets to support, you know, their players. And you start to think, the coaches, probably they lost their jobs. You know, these players are struggling now. There's no food. We try to help with food. We try to help, you know, with electricity, vouchers. But the sad part is we couldn't help every month. You know, we needed something that it will help these girls every month and also bring their confidence. Because a lot of players, I'm sure, they went back home. Because the coaches, they can't afford them being in Gauteng. Because you only afford players if the league is playing. But now, you know, you start to think, okay, lamantomazana ayenza kanjani ngoba even nathi we struggle. As much as nami I can get the recognition, yana bes bangibiza bangipada 10,000. How many of us who are lucky to do that? You know, because even others that I played with that they stop playing, they don't even get recognition. So you start to think, uwenza kanjani? Because even nami manje that I get the little recognition right now, there is nothing happening. So it's sad because no one is even thinking, let's go back to these teams. since we covered as a federation, let's go back to these teams and try to see and speak to the coaches and or call the chairmen of the teams and try to see what can we do and help, because we understand they're having players coming from different provinces, and already these coaches, we know we're not giving them the grant money that is enough to make sure they pay their rent. So what can we do to help the situation right now? Because we know the coaches probably they lost their jobs. But nothing. You're saying we're having women who are sitting in the chair, probably fighting for the same chair, for women. But what is it that they're saying for women? They're saying nothing. What is it that, but you find guys saying, legends are struggling with what is COVID. Let's go and help legend with what? Let's go and help men soccer players with what? Then you're asking yourself, when a woman should learn about women? Why when are you quiet? Why you can't say what you think for men? Please make sure what you think even harder for women, because these guys, they even get paid. These ones, they don't have nothing at all. So you can't think for people who really getting something. Even when they cut their salary, at least there's something that is coming for them. Tina, we donate ourselves. It's always passion for women.
Yeah.
Tina, we always playing for passion. I can't sleep with passion. I can't eat
Passion doesn't pay the bills.
I can't drive the passion.
Yeah.
I need to have something. It's about time. Good people, they need to change their concept about women. I say, if Vilagazi could claim, I drove a lot of cars. Yes. Now today I'm broke. Give me the opportunity as a woman now to tell my story. I upload my money. But one thing I know, give us money as women, you'll see flames. Because we'll think better.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, Guti, whatever that you think for these men, you think they deserve to have today in this COVID, as a belief, it takes two to tango. Think for these women, like Maureen said, when you go for the sponsor, you're saying, please sponsor Banyana, or you're saying, please sponsor my whole team. So I'm just saying, that is why I went there with EFF. It was not my idea. Let me tell you, it was not my idea. It was the EFF idea. Ne? Then I joined the movement. You know why I joined the movement? People, they could think I'm crazy. Probably it was me, probably calling EFF, Julius, Julius, Asbangen. No. I never did that. They called me. Because when they hear things about women football and our girls qualify to go to World Cup, they're thinking this is not fair. They said, Posh, we want to do this for women football. Can you join the movement? I'm like, why not? Because I've been preaching this thing. Yes, why I need to be a coward, busy talking this thing, then the next thing there's a movement, I'm sitting. But then when I was looking around, I'm like, where are the women? There was no one. Then I'm thinking, these women, they are the ones again who will come and say, we need assist. From what? From what? Because you're not taking part for anything. When you being asked, Guti, women football is being supported, when proudly you say, yes. Knowing deep down which women's football is not being supported the way it deserves to be supported. And you know what is said? Our coaches, they were ex-soccer players. They played for Banyana Banyan. They know the struggle, Banyana Banyan. It's said when my coach tells me, today I can't pray. Today, I can't do my spiritual things as black people that we used to do. Even colored, they will get to our team and they will learn our culture because we were dominating. It's not like we were racist, but because we were dominating. And when we get to that field, when we get to that tunnel, we used to sing, to lift our spirit up. But now you get my legend that is coaching today. Now he's saying, my players don't have to sing. My players, they don't have to have a freedom. Like you're taking it back, you're taking the abuse back. Or we need to better the abuse. So I'm just saying, even women, they need to check themselves because it seems like we're good off backstabbing each other. Ganti, if we can and start to see, if we can try to work together as women, I don't want to take Maureen's placement.
Yes,
I want Maureen to hear my ideas.
Yeah.
So we can better women's football. I don't want to be a president. I want this woman to think, I was once being wear that national jersey, and I'm still holding the record.
record.
So as much as Maureen spent her time going to school, making sure Ugut is getting those degrees, I was getting my degrees in that field. So there is no way Ugut when you can know what I'm doing practically better than me. Yes, you will know it in the office, but me now will teach you practically. Then it will mix.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that, give us
We are
that
stronger
opportunity.
together.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sure. It's becoming the Portia Modise show, isn't it? Very passionate, but we love it and we hope you are enjoying it. Use that all-important hashtag #WomanCan on all social media platforms, on Instagram, Facebook, as well as Twitter. Pearl, during hard lockdown, I partnered with Netball South Africa. We did Lockdown TV where we were interviewing, all the players. And a bevy of those players were saying, I've got a gig, I've got a main gig. Netball for me is becoming more like a side hustle. I mean, you look at Australia, New Zealand, the UK. Netball is a professional sport. The likes of Carla Pretorius play professional sports in the big leagues in the world. And here are our girls here at home saying, I've got a main gig. It's locked down, but I'm busy with my job. And it's like, but you're an athlete. Why aren't you getting the same treatment as guys?
Sport, it's all about perception. Sport in this country is still not perceived as professional. We still need to do a lot of work to get people to see sport as a profession. Uposha was saying something earlier, Uti. For her, it was beyond just playing. For her, it was a job. And that's the kind of mentality that is lacking in many of our athletes. We still have, even on the administrative side, we still have that thing that, you have the administrators, they are your staff members, and then you have players. Instead of saying your players are staff members, they're part of, your staff component. And the players themselves, athletes themselves, need to get to a point where they see this thing as a job. It's a profession, but it's broader than that. It goes back into your cultural barriers as well. Umunira also touched on that. The issue of basic necessities, and if we use education, you can study sport and have a professional sport, whether in sports science, sport management, and the likes, and you can also study through sport. And unfortunately, whether fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you see it, we are in a position where you can use education as a value proposition to get parental support. If you can get that, then it helps to ease the burden of providing the necessary basics for the athlete, because then it's not just up to the coach, it's not just up to the federation, but because the parents or the guardians or support at home, wherever it comes from, they're able to see sport as an opportunity, whether sport as an opportunity as the end, or whether sport as a means to an end. But as long as they value that sport, then they can support the athlete. Then it lightens a lot of burden. So I think also getting parental support is important, and education is in a position to attract, to win that parental support, and to also change the perception of the people within the community. I mean, if you also look at sport organizers, I mean, there are people who organize many tournaments, who organize a lot of activities within the communities that are not associated with the federations. If we can also get them to also think transformatively, let's not treat, gender equity as this thing, or transformation as this thing, but let gender equity and transformation be part of our everyday operations, be part of our DNA. We should be in a position to say, you will not be allowed to organize an event if it does not have both men and women. And if you, as the event organizer, cannot do it yourself, then rope in a Portia, rope in a Munira, rope in a Pearl to run the women's division of your event. Then it all goes together. That in itself is transformative. You tick the necessary boxes. then again, it lightens that burden because you are changing the perceptions of the people around the athlete. Then they will help you to provide the support for the athlete to be able to excel at higher levels.
Yeah, and you mentioned education. I think it's a very important factor because I know with varsity sports, you need to be doing well in your academics to make the team. But if you are a young Kangisa Chawani, you played for the Spar Proteas, you played in the Netball World Cup, is it sustainable? Is sports sustainable as a career? Because right now, there's nothing competitive happening in Netball South Africa. Would you say it's sustainable?
Right now, no.
And pre-COVID,
to make a long story short, right now, no.
Is this pre-COVID?
Even pre-COVID.
Okay.
Even pre-COVID, I mean,
yeah.
generally speaking, that's why you will have somebody who will say, no, I'm playing football, but then, I still have to go earn a living. I still have to have a job. The football or the sport becomes the side hustle. I still need to go earn money. But, over time, the more people we can bring in to be involved in sport that value the potential of sport, then that can run proper programs and have vision and have, a mission and have a long-term vision as a mission and are not out for themselves, then we can start thinking along those lines of sustainability. Now I can bring it, But it also goes. There's two sides to the coin. And as much as we can hammer the federations and hammer the administrators and blame corporate and whatnot, I think as the individuals, as the people involved in the sport, we also need to ask some serious questions of ourselves. For example, I get a lot of requests, let me call them requests, from young people, men, boys and girls, men and women, all over the country that will say, can I please come to Tax to volunteer? Can I please? And
can I shadow you?
You are in the VAL, for example. You are in the VAL. Now, do you want to come and volunteer, or do you want to come work for a professional football team, or do you want to gain experience in football? I'll use football because I'm in a football environment. Or do you want to work in football? Do you want to get experience in football? If you want to get experience in football, you have local football teams around you. If you say, I want to come and shadow you in the media space, in the communication space, in the marketing space, you say, but hang on, you went to school for this, even if you didn't go to school, so, but you have a passion for this thing. There is a regional league where you are. There are SASO league teams where you are, who can greatly benefit from your expertise, and you can also benefit from doing the work for them. There are ABC League Mutsipa teams where you are. So let's also, as the people on the ground, as the people who want to be involved, let's also think long term. Let's also have a bigger picture, because unfortunately, sport is one of those things where you can't just go to school and then come here and say, I want to. You have to show that you can. And you can only do that if you're involved in local structures where there are no restrictions, there are no ego. You want to bring this thing, you have the freedom to be able to do it. And then by the time you want to be associated with your Tax or your Kaizer Chiefs or your Chipa United, whatever, you already have sharpened those skills. And what does that mean? That means you have built that career. You have now ensured that sustainability that you are talking about. It's not somebody else's responsibility. You also have a responsibility towards yourself.
You wanted to add on that?
No, I needed to add, I agree with that when it comes to, and I think a huge part of me being in sport is volunteerism. It's a huge part, and it's a huge part of how I got to learn so much, and I still continue to learn today. It's based on volunteerism, but it's because I have the drive and I'm interested in what I want to do. And sometimes, especially young people lack that. They see the glitz and the glam, and they want to be part of the glitz and the glam, but they don't understand the 2 a.m.s that you put in. They don't understand the no sleep, the fights that you have to actually get a certain objective across. But I want to go back to where Pearl said no. where she said no. And it pains me when she says no. It really does pain me when she says no. But it's the truth. It's the reality. But having said that as well, we need to look at, and I always say this and I will continue saying it until we get to that point, we've got to professionalize women's sport because it takes care of a lot of things. We've got to professionalize it. We cannot sit and say, but they're winning, but they're doing this, but they're doing that. I can see they're winning. If I'm a potential sponsor, I can see that you're winning. So what? So are so many other people that are winning. Or I could put my money wherever I want to. What is a value proposition that you are bringing to me?
Yeah.
You know, and how am I going to build, or how am I as an organization or a sponsor going to grow from that value proposition? Because remember, as a sponsor, I sponsor you because I need to get a bigger reach, right? My brand needs to grow. I need to sell more products.
Yes.
And how is that going to help me? It's the reality of the situation. So we as women have got to work towards professionalizing women's sport. It's not going to solve all our problems, but it's going to solve a lot of other problems on the ground where a young Protea player can then be able to say, this is my career, this is what I make a living out of. And this is how I can then further grow from there. And once, playing careers are very short. We all know that.
Yep.
And I have my education. And from my education, I can then decide while I'm playing whether from here I'm going to go into broadcasting, I'm going to go into PR and marketing within sport because I have so much love and passion for the sport and everything else. But if I'm not given that opportunity already to play this sport professionally, so I'm half and half. You know, I'm here because I love the sport, it's my passion, but I need to pay the bills at the same time. And at times, I'm going to miss practice.
Yep.
At times, I'm going to miss matches because my boss is on my back.
Yep.
Job needs to be done. Work needs to be done because come the 25th, I need to get that SMS, right? And my passion is not giving me that SMS. You know, my passion is not giving me that SMS. So we need to work towards that. We need to find ways of ensuring that. You know, I said yesterday when we were opening the institute that we opened the institute within 5 months. We founded it in October. We launched in November. Yesterday we opened. If we could take that lesson into all women's sporting codes to say, we are giving ourselves 6 months to ensure that we run a professional league for X, Y, and Z sport. It doesn't really matter, but we've got to start somewhere. We cannot run a league for 2 weeks and say we're running a professional league. That's not a professional league. You're running a tournament. People need to stop selling us that they're running leagues when they're running tournaments. You literally just running a tournament. How do you take that 2 week and make it into, whether it's 6 months or 8 months? But also, another thing that I find is that, you know, female athletes, we are always talking about them, that they've got to be a brand. You know, you've got to sell yourself out there. But we don't teach them that. Remember, whether I'm a player, I'm a swimmer, or whatever sporting code I'm involved in, my mental state is about winning. It's about me getting better. It's about how I can do better on that field, because the better that I do, the better opportunities that I get on the field. But out there, what is it that we are doing to make sure that that female athlete understands that I cannot be on Facebook holding a beer in my hand and saying that I'm projecting or I'm inspiring or whatever the case is. How do I clean up my brand so that I'm able to then attract potential sponsors? You can't look at other athletes or legends that are sitting there and they have gigs or they have whatever it is and say, yeah, but she's got it because of. No, she doesn't have it because of. She has it because she understood that she's a brand and she needs to work, to continuously work towards maintaining that brand so that potential sponsors come through and say, I want you to hold my cell phone in your hand and promote it, and then you're going to get X amount out of it. I need you to get to X amount of followers on Instagram so that I can pay you per post that you put out on Instagram. You know, it's always secondary, and it needs to stop being secondary. It needs to be upfront with everything else that is happening.
But you do also have athletes who've got a clean image online. You know, they've got great brand etiquette, but they still don't have sponsors. You've got athletes who've got, you know, German car sponsors. You're sponsored by, you know, the biggest active wear. You're sponsored by a certain bank. Do you get what I mean? But none of that with any of our girls.
But what are they doing to go out there and attract? Yes, you've got your clean image, but I cannot sit and say I have a clean image, so sponsors must come to me. And that's another thing when it comes to women's sport. Women need to understand that nobody owes you anything. You want something, you go out there and you work for it. It's not owed to you. The fact that Munira has a sponsor with so-and-so doesn't mean that you are entitled to that sponsor.
That's true.
There's something that she did in order for her to get that sponsor. You know, I can't sit and say, yeah, but I have a clean image and I'm always holding a particular brand in my hand, even though I'm not sponsored by them. They need to come to me. No, they don't have to come to you. Have you approached them? Have you had a discussion with them? Do you understand what their vision is right now? Because organizations have strategies as well. This year they decide this is the direction that we are going. Do you fit in within that strategy?
Yeah.
And if you don't fit in within that strategy, they're not going to work with you. But again, make that contact. Have you made the contact? They're not going to come to you. You go to them.
No, I wanted to add what Monir said, Guti. You know, I used to say, even in my teammates, Guti, it's our responsibility to make sure, Guti, we sell ourselves. It's so unfortunate, Guti. I've learned my lessons since I retired. You know, playing overseas, ne, it taught me a lot. That I realized that at home, we still have a long way to go. For me to understand a lot of things, how to be a professional player, you needed to be in a place that was professional.
Yeah.
So now they expect you to act professional when you go to the national team. Club level, you saw amateur, you change pants with slash. There's no changing room. You change under the tree when you...
On match day?
Yeah. Club level, when you go to the training session, you change under the tree because there's no changing room for you. You don't even have a space to train. These guys, they just giving you a portion for you to train. But when you get to the national team, they expect you to act professionally.
Yeah.
Now I don't know where I've learned to be professional. Then when I get to the national team, I know how to maintain my diet.
Yes.
I don't know where I get my money from home to maintain my diet, because even then when I go home, I'm still not get paid to go back home and maintain my diet. I need to eat whatever that is ekaya abayidlayo that they're eating, because I don't bring money. Then the next thing, these players, we gay. I'll tell you, we gay. A lot of women soccer players are gay. But it's not like all of them are gay. They are not like Uposh. I mean, I'm so gay, it's not even fun. So, no. I know. I'm not taking that fact away from me. Listen, I love myself being a woman. If I will ask God, I'll come back being a woman. I love the way I am. I don't want to change anything. I'm comfortable. I have a confidence on myself. But I'm just saying, there are people looking football because they don't know how to describe us. I'm always the center of attention. Then it's fine. But we need to teach these people. We need to teach our parents. They need to understand us. Even our federation, they need to understand the people that we are. Because they like it or not, 100% it will be 20% where you get straight women who will play this game. 80% of this game is played by gay people. And they try to run away from this fact. Now we get to the national team, I need to act like I left my girlfriend ending. And these are the things we need to be able to talk about them. When I get to my workplace, I still need to be me. I don't need to act like, I have kids or I'm planning to get married one day. I am not. Probably I'm planning to marry someone else. And let it be okay. But teach me how to present myself in my working place. Don't discriminate me. Then, end of the day, you want to give me your behavior. It's not me.
Yeah.
I understand. If you teach me overseas, they'll teach you. We don't have a problem with you being gay. But we want you to understand how to sell the brand and how to be you.
Yeah, how to carry
when you get to the working place, tuck in. Now you find our girls National League, I'm thinking, okay, let's say I had money. Let's say I had money, now I was an ex-soccer player, then I want to put my money in this. These girls, they're really not selling themselves also.
Yeah.
So that is why I'm saying, even the federation, they don't have to run away from this issue. It's been there for so long. We need to deal with it in order for us to get sponsors. Because what's the point of you, aside you coming to us and tell us, yeah, you guys are not getting sponsors because you look like guys. Now you're offending us. Now you're not coming with a solution. But if you understand our life, you say, guys, I don't dispute you to be who you are. But let's work towards the brand. When you come to the working place, know how to act. When you go home, I really don't care who you associate with. But still make sure that when you're home, act like a brand. Be a professional player. But you know what is happening? No one is teaching us. Instead, then the next thing, when I get to the national team, I need to be professional. How I'm going to be professional? Yeah. We get to the social media. Let me tell you, some of us, we're not famous because we don't know the social media. These things we don't know. Yeah. Now you get to the national team. We need people who will teach us. Which, when you start to play in this level, you need to create your brand. Yes. Then they bring people that they can teach you how to create your brand. So you could get endorsements. No. There's nothing like that happening. But success, they tell you, when I go in the social media, it's in Twitter, I go handle, it's in Instagram. But you're thinking, these people, they don't know about this thing. Most of footballers, you like it or not, because they wanted to play this. The passion was in this thing. We understand. It's only the generation of today that is trying to push to go to school. It's true. That is why we find most of our legends, when they have interview, we understand. That is why we need to be taught. When we have these interviews, so I know how to present myself, I know how to answer. But see, I'm not being built in myself, but when I get to this platform, I need to be professional. Yeah.
Do you feel the level of expectancy should be somewhat different for Abantu Besifazane when it comes to financial literacy? Because we always speak about life after football, life after this. Are you investing? Are you saving? Do you feel good? Because how can I say to Portia, are you saving if aunane consistent fixed income?
Let me tell you, I used to say, Gucci, I don't know where the strong character I am getting. Being the superstar of Banyana, scoring goals every day, then you have to go and face the abusement of your township. Every people think they know how much you're getting paid. When are you blowing it that money? And that time you're living in the shack, you start to think, why these people, they think I could choose a beer, not trying to fix my shack. But then, those are the things that they make you stronger. You wake up every day, you listen to these people. Do you think I love to sit in Klalagit? Do you think I'm in the age of 37? And I always saying it, these guys that Tina we normally watch each and every weekend. Even our girls, they need to start to change their mentality and say, we're gonna support our women. My role model needs to be a woman. You can't be getting an interview, then they ask you, who's your favorite player? Oh, are you? So now when you say your favorite player is Itumelon Kun, now you're not promoting the sport that you're playing. You need to say, my favorite player or Amanda Lamin, my favorite player is Janine Van Veek, my favorite player is Posham Disa. Those are the people that I want to look up to. And if you guys, we're not gonna sponsor women's football, probably we're not gonna find other Posham Disa, Abuban. And these guys, we support them. Tina, we buy tickets and go to the stadium. That is why we call themselves by them. When I get to I went number 12. I was inspired by Utsikitiki Tabo Mugio. So now, it's true. But now you need to understand, I've grown now my legacy, and I'm starting to think, good. But if, I started to be famous when I was cutting raising for the guys. And the women's football was getting popular. And that time was, people, they didn't know much about women's football. But cutting raising for Abotikiti, Kabo, Stifli Kolea, Aboban. It was nice because people started to watch us before they watch these girls. Then when we're sitting there in the stands, these fans, they say, Portia, humble strike, Kalapas, Kipu Park, humble strike. Then people shows good, they're starting to notice women's football. I will say again, yes, I know we want to fight, we want to win this fight alone. But we're asking these guys, Joe. I always say, PSL. They need to look at us and feel the pain and say, we can promote these women. They just need to give us a slot for 3 years. If I'm a ticket 40 and make it 80, you still get your 40, we get our 40. There's 2 matches a day. Then after 3 years, Mamela will leave. You know the change that will do in the communities, in the families. But if there's ladies' team, I start to join. The wife start to join and say, I need to know you're coaching men. I'm going to coach I'm going to go and support my ladies. Now, there's a lot of things that are happening, not only in the football space, but in the football fans' homes. It will change. Even the fathers, the way they look at women, they look at their wife, it will change. Because what they watch there, it will be different, and their wife supports, their kids support, they'll start to think, good, we need to treat these people equal. Because if these people, they could bring joy in my wife and kids, my daughters, it simply says they put an influence in these people. So if, guys, they could put an influence in Babafana, why can't we do the same?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, with these guys, they need to talk about women's football. They don't have to pretend as in like us exist. We do exist. We wear the same national jersey. Bafana, Bafana is different than us. She belongs to the same structure.
Yeah.
It's just that the people of Aspet, they're owning two teams. This is a nation. In day one. If Bafana could do like a cricket, Oguchi, if our girls, if we're getting this much, our girls, they need to get the same. They need to do the same. It's not about them, it's about improving the country. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Sure. Natalie, financially after sports, how does it look like? You know, she's obviously alluded to so many factors and how they struggle, you know, financially. What is it like for swimmers in that sporting code?
I think I share very similar sentiments to what Portia does, and you know, it is quite an interesting thing that when I retired, it took me 2 to 3 years just to find what it is about me that I could go out there and use. You know, as a sports person, you can control the time you swim, how much you train. You've got your circles that you're in. I was very fortunate that I had a brand. Someone created a brand, and at the end of the day, the brand was me. I didn't have to go out and do too much about it. And I think one of the challenges is that people out there think that you're this wealthy person who's earning all this money when you win medals, and actually you don't. I mean, you pay to belong to a club, you pay to belong to the province, you pay to go to your national championships, you pay to travel internationally. The few sponsors that you do get in, basically the money goes on tours and goes on, you know, things that you need to do to gain the experience to be the best athlete that you can be. And ultimately, you know, we have a lot of dialogues in bringing in sponsors, but do we include the athlete in it as well? Do we get the buy-in from the athlete? Do we get the buy-in from you as an individual, for example, in football? You know, you speak of etiquette, you speak of how to dress, but at the end of the day, that is one conversation that you're having. One doesn't have to teach you how to dress. It's just teaching you, you know, what you're trying to achieve already shows you what to do along the way. And I think, you know, there's no meeting currently. You know, how do you know that you need to keep finances aside when you're not really receiving anything? And then somehow something comes in and now it's, you know, what do you do? But those are all lessons I think that should have come through within your sporting career. And I think it's sad that, you know, we're in completely different sports, but at the same time, we experience the same thing, where a lot of people think that you like this, but actually you like that. And as a person who retires, I wanted to leave sport because I never saw sport as a sustainable solution. I never saw sport as something that was my career. I saw that I needed to go to school, I needed to get a job, I needed to, you know, one day have money when I retire, like my parents have now retired. You know, at the end of the day, how do I get there? And, you know, with that, it's been really challenging because you spend so much time within sport just fighting to make a team, to be able to train, to be able to find the facilities, to be able to travel and gain that experience. So, you know, we talk sustainability, but we're talking in separate, I think, you know, there's movements that are trying to achieve, and then there are athletes that are trying to achieve. And we also need to meet in the middle. And I think that's something that, you know, former athletes can share that knowledge. And that's something that former athletes can go on to do. You know, we all talk about voluntary work, but it's really important to have the conversations in order for me to understand what Portia went through, for me to understand what Paul goes through, what Manira goes through, because ultimately, I can tell you as an athlete, I just thought that I was getting no help, I was getting nothing. And there are those individuals that are fighting and working. And, you know, sport is, in South Africa, you know, Nelson Mandela always said, sport is the power to change the world, and it really does, you know. It's taken a lot of people who fight and fight and fight and fight to be something. You know, as I said, I mentioned Portia because she's sitting next to me, but there's many of those athletes out there, and there's many athletes that just can't fight. And therefore we lose them through sport. And we have the people like Manir, the people like Paul, that are trying to bring them up. And there are so many other factors that ultimately we lose them. And so, you know, I often feel like everyone currently is in their silos trying to make something work. And there's no language that's been spoken between everybody. And I mean, Portia speaks in a very different way and passionately about, you know, being about lesbian, or, you know, for me, it's you're a woman. Yeah. You know, you play a women's sport. There shouldn't be anything else attached to it. You know, today is all about women can, and it's about inspiring women to go out there and be the best that you can be. You know, a lot of people look at me and say I'm big and I'm ugly and I'm whatever else, and you have that perception of yourself. But when it comes to sport, it was the thing that ultimately I was, and I worked really hard to be in, but I never ever had the thought of one day I'm going to earn millions and I'm going to have a house and I'm going to have a, you know, be able to retire just on sport. You know, something you don't earn that. Yes, there are individuals that maybe have lots of sponsorships. It was a choice for me not to have too many because I knew that I couldn't give so much, and it was important to give back. So, you know, we're all different, and at the end of the day, a decision needs to be taken per athlete as to what you want to achieve, where you want to go, what you want to do. As a woman, it's tough, it's studies, it's family, it's all of that you actually want to do. I mean, I sit at 37 and I think, wow, you know, I retired at 28. You know, everyone's partied, everyone's studied, everyone's, now I'm going to work, study, party, everything all at once. And gain that experience. And it's okay, because that's the choice that I made at the end of the day. And many athletes will experience it differently, but at the same time, we all experience it similarly, because through the ranks, I don't think we've known who we really were, because we were so focused on achieving something and being something. Education for me, I tried to go to university, and in my years, I won't give my age away, actually I already have. In the early 2000s, if I wasn't at university, I was told that, you know, I wasn't there and nobody would really help me catch up the work because I wasn't there. So that's already changed. And you can see how dialogue changes the landscape, and changes how people speak about things and how people experience things. Nowadays, I'm sure if an athlete goes to university and misses, you know, days because they're at nationals, a professor would help them and would help them get through the work. So I've seen a lot of positive shift from when I was an athlete, and I'm sure, Portia, you have as well. But at the end of the day, there's so much more that still can be done, and especially with women. You know, lots of conversations of, do we legalize having 50% women participation, 50% men, 50% leadership? You know, at the end of the day, women tend to be more nurturing, and they care more about the upliftment and the development. I don't say men don't, please don't get me wrong. But, you know, the woman is supposed to be the nurturer and the gatherer and all of those nice things. And again, some women aren't like that, but that's okay. But you do have a lot of that is there, and in possible leadership positions, you have the possibility for anything. And some women, you know, tend to sit back because culturally it's not right. Culturally it's not accepted. So you have this tussle between yourself. Should I, shouldn't I? Should I, shouldn't I? So ultimately, I think it's the growth. And as an athlete, I think moving into sort of the more leadership position, as Portia speaks about, the foundations, wanting to give back, because you don't want people to go through what you went through. And, you know, it's not going fast enough, but it's something that, you know, these types of dialogues can definitely bring about. And in different levels and different sectors coming together, understanding why and what and how and when and where. very much like an athlete would do growing up. Who am I? Why am I? Where am I? As an athlete, I didn't think like that. I just wanted to get there. And only when people started talking to me and making me realize, but Natalie, you know, you're traveling. Did you go and see Buckingham Palace, for example? And I said, no, I didn't have the money to go there. You know, so what experience did you actually get traveling? I was focused, I was swimming. I couldn't afford to. How do we change that? How do we, you know, make it that athletes that are younger and younger and younger understand where they want to go, who they are? Because only with that can you plan finances, can you plan many things. And, you know, ultimately when you study, many kids don't know what they want to be one day. But that experience is what's important. And if you don't have that experience, you can't do anything.
What would you like to say to that young girl who'd like to wear the green and gold of South Africa one day and represent us on that Olympic stage? Anything that you want them to do differently that perhaps you didn't do?
For me, it is about owning what you want to achieve. I chose not to study and I chose not to have a family purely, I mean, I went through many challenges, but it was a decision that when I retired one day, I was going to do it. And to do what you set out to do. It's tough as a woman. You know, I think it's more difficult because a lot of women are having families. I mean, nowadays they talk about the new 26 is actually 36. So, you know, it is just to put your head to something. Don't step back for anybody. You know, you might come across that boardroom where it's very male-dominated, and you need to have your voice. You know, I think I haven't had a strong enough voice, but it's important to have that voice and be the voice for the woman and for the girls out there. So I'm not saying, you know, you must stand up and not take any nonsense, and, you know, because we're all human. But at the same time, it's find a way to share your voice. Find a way to at least bring one woman and try and mentor that one girl, you know, and share your challenges and help them see their faults so that they can be stronger women in turn. And not just all their faults, but also all their good, because through good we learn and through faults we learn. So it's important that we bring at least one female. And yes, just to not back down because you think you're this only woman and, you know, nobody's going to listen to you. You've been through these challenges, and don't be scared to share the challenges because people grow and people learn from it.
Portia, for umuntu Pume Davidson okhulele emkhukhwini who thinks they're not good enough, you know, to wear that green and gold, banyana banyana, what is your message to that young girl?
I think I'll say what Natil said. Good say. You start with the passion. Know what you want, and work towards it. But you know, I'll say my regrets in my life in Yam is not to go to school. Like I'll do anything to reverse that, because I feel good. I look at people that I grew up with; they better in life. And I'm thinking, it's okay. Probably we're supposed to be in the same space. So I don't want to find young girls today. You get to the national team, you get there, you want to go and play Olympics, you are 35, they're selecting the team. Don't ever make a mistake to drop. You're still young, there's still another chance to go for you to go to the Olympics if you work harder and you show what you want. Because there are a lot of girls that they dropped out just to sacrifice themselves to go to the national team and go and play Olympics. And today, they're not happy with their decision. And I'm just saying, which we need people who will give an inspiration around those girls. I don't understand why a mother will allow a child to choose Ebola than isikolo ngama final exam just because this kid wants to go and play Olympics. But you can still change that and say, as a federation, we can have an influence to schools and make sure that our players, they still get an opportunity, you know, to go study after presenting a nation. Because this is a nation, a team, a country. So there is no school will never understand when are you lifting that flag up and you inspire even the young children that are still at school to look up to you and say, one day, Nami, I will be like them. They used to do that for us with the people I used to play with before. They will never drop to school. They will make sure they organize people for them to come and teach them, and they'll talk to schools and say, our players, they're going to participate in this, but we're not going to be here. Can you save that? So good, when they come back, they don't miss anything. So I'm just saying, good, maybe we need to go back to that. Because end of the day, you drop me, I sacrifice, I leave my job. There is no better explanation. There is no respect to come back and say, you know, I'm sorry, Gucci, I made you as a coach to leave your job, you know, a government job, to come and choose this. End of the day, I didn't choose you to come and go and play my Olympics. It's a loss. So I need to and acknowledge that, Nami, as a coach, and say, I made this girl to make a wrong decision. And what can I do, you know, to help in that situation? So I'm saying to those girls that they still want to go and play for a national team, don't choose a national team. The national team is not going anywhere. It's something that is going to stay there because it's a country nation, it's a team, a nation. So if you show Gucci, you're good with what you do, Mamela, you're still going to achieve. And queen, it doesn't matter, it doesn't make you a different person. You're still the same person than umuntu ophuma ku townhouse, and the mostly abantu abaphuma ku townhouse abekho focus. Most abantu abafocus, it's us. And I'll say discipline, it's very important. You need to discipline yourself, especially anything engisras ngayo ngama women soccer player. They need to invest in their body. They need to invest in their body. They need to look like athlete. I struggle to watch women's football. You know why? It doesn't look nice in the field. Like, hey, we need to change that. You understand that they need to invest in their body. As much as we want our sports to sell, it starts with us. Even me, I'm not playing. Probably it's been 6 or 7 years. Because I never stopped living my football life. Even today, I still live the same routine. It's not easy to lose that routine. Even today when I sleep, I can still dream nothing, say grounding. It's not easy to lose that passion. So I'm just saying to these kids, they must go to school first, then your passion second. Then you wait for Abo push. Go to school.
Well, our director says we're out of time. We're going to quickly get closing remarks from Munira and Pearl before Samba. Just their closing remarks overall.
Look, I think my closing remarks overall is that it's true, it doesn't really matter where you come from. It's all about where you're going and what you believe in yourself. But also more importantly, and you know, a lot of the times we get so focused on one door and we forget that there are other doors that are open, and we need to understand that there are plenty of doors that are open, and if the one door closes, it's fine, you know, you move on. But you also need to understand that when you go into war, it's okay to lose certain battles as long as you win the war. You need to understand which battles am I prepared to fight for because they're going to help me win the war, and which battles are not worth fighting.
Sure. Pearl?
So much to say, so much to say. What I'm going to say just touches on a little bit, especially what Natalie said earlier. Guti, we are not alone. Wherever we are not alone. That's the thing. Secondly, we are in the sports, arts, and culture space. And unfortunately, our artists or our colleagues in the art space find themselves in similar conditions. So let's work closer together with people in other spaces and learn from each other. Like you were saying, you are not alone wherever you are. Whatever you need, there's probably somebody who has a solution. There are resources available to everybody. Tap into those resources. Ask the questions. Even if you don't know what to ask, as long as you know what you want, then you can go to Lindiwe and say, no, Lindiwe, I want to do a minor production. I want to, do like a little channel for my club. What do I do? Then Lindiwe can advise. Wherever you are, there are resources to assist you. You are not a silo. Do not operate in a silo. tap into those resources. There shouldn't be anybody who has to choose between going to the national team and going to school. There are resources. There are sports officers in universities. There are sports organizers in schools where even the athlete herself can say, listen, I have this challenge. We can go and negotiate with the department or with the faculty to say, this is the situation. And you'll find that the university actually has a support system for those sort of for those sort of things, but because we're not tapping into that resource, we put ourselves in those positions where city, but I must choose one or the other, where you can have both. So please, let's not operate in silos. Let's have dialogues, and let's use each other. Let's learn from each other.
And thank you, ladies, for always availing yourselves. We really appreciate it. We hope we were able to educate, empower, and inspire you at home. Thank you so much for joining us for the hashtag Women Can. To my fine panelists, Munira Ramatula, Portia Murise, Natalie Dutoit, as well as Pearl Musiani. Thank you, ladies. It's been an absolute pleasure. We hope you enjoyed this dialogue. Keep the conversation going on social media. Use that hashtag Women Can. Follow at Envision Brand. Follow the Gauteng Department of Sports, Arts, Culture and Recreation on different social media platforms. The handle is at Gauteng SACR, right? Gauteng SACR.